carving of lower 6. We will start the carving of lower 6 by the step of the convergence, as first and second steps are similar to upper 6, but the difference will be in the measurement that create low 6 wide tooth, and the second difference between upper and lower 6 that the intercuspal distance proximally are not divided equally as the case of upper 6, but here is divided unequally, 2 mm away from the midline buccally and 4 mm away from the midline lingually, creating lingual inclination. Thus the difference between upper 6 and lower 6 in the first and second steps, the measurement creating wide tooth and the lingual inclination. The third step is to create the distal convergence. Distal convergence is done by drawing a midline gently above the cervical ridge buccally, reducing the wax towards the distal surface above the cervical ridge, of course, just by 1 mm reduction. By this step we reduce the distal surface. Adjustment of the cervical ridge by this way to avoid any step or inconcavity above the cervical ridge, creating the buccal surface to be two surfaces now. As a mesio-buccal line angle, we are performing bevel. By this bevel we have the buccal surface to be 3 levels, 1, 2, and 3. Then we are going to perform lingual convergence like any tooth, reducing from the mid surface towards the lingual and from the distal surface towards the lingual, smoothing to the surface and flaring the whole mesial and distal surfaces towards the lingual. Pay attention to the cusp slopes. We have to return it again to its normal level and make it slightly converge lingually. From the distal surface, the reduction below the slope towards the lingual surface, just 1 pi-millimeter, then flaring to the whole surface to converge from the buccal to the lingual surface. Adjustment of the slope should be done. By this way we create 6 surfaces occlusally, 3 buccally, mesial and distal, and 1 lingual. We have to divide the buccal cusps from the lingual cusp, but first we have to adjust the midline. Now the midline is not centralized as we perform distal convergence, thus we have to redraw it again. Should be parallel to the buccal surface, meaning that it's tilted distally to the lingual surface. A V-shaped notch is done now to separate the buccal from lingual cusps. The knife or carver should be parallel to the buccal surface, meaning that directed towards the lingual surface from the distal aspect. After that, we have to separate the 3 buccal cusps, but first we will do the mesial and distal triangular fossae, mesial and distal, by the tip of the knife. Pay attention that the mesial triangular fossa not at the same level of the distal triangular fossa. The distal is directed slightly lingually. Separation of the buccal cusps from the mesial and to the mesio-buccal cusp, we draw a 2 mm line away from the midline by 1 mm mesially. As you see, away from the midline by 1 mm mesially. The remaining area, the distobuccal remaining area, is divided unequally into 2/3 and 1/3. Then draw a 2 mm line to separate the distobuccal from the distal surface. Each cusp should be done by first putting cusp tip in the middle area of the cusp, cusp tip, and a cusp tip for the distal cusp. Each cusp tip for each cusp will connecting these tips with the 2 mm line that was drawn previously, and a V-shaped notch was created as we see now. Regarding distal buccal and distal, just half of the V shape is drawn to keep bulk for the distal cusp. Now we have 3 cusps buccally. Separation between distal buccal and mesiobuccal cusps is done now by creating V-shaped notch between the mesiobuccal and distal buccal. To separate the distal buccal from the distal, half of the V shape is reduced from the cusp tip of each cusp, and the depth of the V shape is just 2 mm. Lingually, even separation is occurred. A central line is drawn just 2 mm. Each cusp has cusp tip, central cusp tip. From this cusp tip, connect with the 2 mm separating line. Thus, the V-shaped notch to separate the cusps of depth just 2 mm from the cusp tip. By this way, we have 5 cusps with 5 cusp tips: distal, distobuccal, mesiobuccal, mesiolingual, and distolingual. Each cusp has triangular ridge. Each triangular ridge should looking forward, gentle removal mesial and distal to the cusp, as we see here, to create the triangular ridge. Pay attention that each cusp should looking forward to the opposing surface. Here is the distolingual cusp, gentle removal mesially and distally to create triangular ridge. By this way, we carve the 2 lingual cusps. For the mesiobuccal, also its triangular ridge should looking forward towards the lingual surface, gentle removal mesially and distally. Pay attention here, we have the triangular fossa and V-shaped notch, thus the wax should be gently removed. The distobuccal also looking forward, mesial and distal gentle reduction of the wax. Like that. The remaining cusp is the distal cusp, with very small cusp, very gentle removal to the wax, mesial and distal to the distal cusp, as we have actually triangular ridge distal to this cusp and a V-shaped reduction mesial to this cusp. Drawing zigzag developmental groove, central developmental groove, and communicating it with the lingual surface, creating lingual developmental groove and 2 buccal grooves, mesiobuccal and distobuccal developmental groove. From these grooves, accentuation to the triangular ridges occurred, as we see now. From each groove, we flare from the groove to the triangular ridge, accentuating it, removal of extra wax, and communicating all the grooves together, and central fossa now is creating the developmental grooves mesiobuccal and distobuccal lingual groove. Accentuation to the buccal grooves from the buccal surface, just accentuation and flaring to the grooves by this way. Gentle reduction to the grooves buccally, and lingual developmental grooves created. Gentle removal, mesial and distal, to this groove is occurred. By this way we have lingual developmental groove. Removal of any extra wax. Finally, we are doing the cervical line, which is convex rootwise buccally, slightly convex crownwise mesially, convex rootwise lingually, and straight distally. Accentuation to this cervical line 2 or 3 times, then reduction the wax from the root toward this line, will creating properly curved cervical line. Removal of any extra wax, roundation to the whole line angles occurred. By this way we got lower 6 with a hexagonal occlusal outline.